All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lunch and Learn. My name is Jeremy Litwinowitz, one of our trainers, here to lead our call today. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A, and I'd be happy to discuss with whatever we want to talk about. In the meantime, I'm going to go over some of the usual stuff, give some people a chance to join, ask questions, and things like that. So again, if you have questions, type them in the Q&A, and we'll be able to start going over those in just a few moments. In the meantime, a couple things I just want to highlight. If you're curious to check any of these things out, we've got a couple places you can check out. If you find our YouTube channel, Decisions Support or Decisions Training, you can find all kinds of different videos that we create. We put up all of our lunch and learns on the YouTube channel. We also put up other types of content about different steps and decisions or unique concepts. And sometimes if the version upgrades have some cool, unique concepts or some really uh, new things that are added, we like to put videos up on those too. So if you're curious about that, check out that YouTube channel, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. But if you want to continue following us to find more about the things that we add and change and things like that, you can also always make suggestions for our videos and things, and we're always happy to help out in whatever ways we can. And try to add more things and increase our content. Decision Solution Marketplace, another great place for uh, different resources that you can have. So we have a lot of really cool projects you could download and install and check out if you're curious about different things and decisions. If you actually want to try running a working accelerator or something in your system, or if you just like to use it for inspiration, there's a lot of cool ways that that can be used as well. And then finally, we have our decisions.com/events, a great place that you can go to if you're curious about things that are coming up in decisions. And so if you want to know anything about what's going on in decisions, you can easily check that out. So decisions.com/events. I do know we have our bi-weekly roadmap. We just had that on this Tuesday. So not next week, but the week after, we'll have another one of those. You could register there. We've also got a webinar coming up at the end of July, on July 24th, I believe it is. So you can join there as well. So definitely go and check out some of those things if you're curious. All right. In the meantime, we can jump over to my decisions instance. And if we have any questions, we can answer those. If not, I can kind of show off a little bit of things before or until someone asks any questions. Let's see. Okay, got my screen switched over. I'm not seeing any questions right away. So while we wait to see if anyone else is going to join and ask any questions, I can highlight a couple pretty cool things. Um, if you are unaware, we actually just had at the end of last week, our version 9.12 upgrade went through. So we've added quite a few different things in this, but I want to highlight a couple of the flow designing changes that we've made because I think that's something interesting and it's very noticeable, some of them, as soon as you start working with flows and things once you've upgraded to 9.12. So I'll show some of that off so we can kind of highlight some of the new things that have been added. So one really cool thing that maybe not a lot of people know about in decisions is simulation behavior. So all steps and decisions have simulation behavior. If you click on any step and you scroll to the very bottom, there's a testing and simulation category you can change. And this just allows you to set specific inputs on those steps whenever they're running in certain environment at different points. So for example, I can have it set so that every time it runs this step, if this step is expecting an input, it has simulation behavior when it's running in the debugger, when it's running in production, like if a scheduled job runs it, or I just click on the flow to run it, or I access it from a dashboard or something. Or if it's running in a unit test, you can have that input data go through to make sure that whatever data you want to go through actually runs through to test it. And in this 9.12 update, we actually have new little symbols that appear whenever you try to set up simulation data. Most notably, the little S to emphasize that there's some kind of simulation data available on it. Now, this is just an error, so it's unrelated because there's no mapping stuff set on it. And everything that just appears if I do have an error. If I were to resolve that by picking some mapping, with whatever, that disappears. But now I still have a little S in the corner of my step to emphasize and make sure that I know now that this is something that has simulation data set up. So it's a nice little thing. Um, that appeared, I believe, in the older versions, but it's a little bit more clear now, and it's a little purple S in the back. The other thing that's really neat is converters. So if you've ever used converters, you can either make your own or there's some default ones depending on the data type. But let's say, for example, I set up a string to decimal converter because this value needed to come from a string, and I need to convert it to a decimal to make this step run. Anytime you're using a converters, we also have a symbol that will show off for that now. So in 912, you can actually show off these little symbols whenever you're using simulation data, or if you have a step that's using converters, you can actually see those little symbols there, and it'll highlight, um, those like little extra items and things like that. A couple other neat things before, especially if you have like a really large flow, manipulating the canvas could have been a little bit annoying, but we've actually adjusted some ways that you could actually use and pan the canvas. So if this was very, very large and taking up a lot of space in my flow, and instead of having to, scroll and try to manipulate and everything like that, you can actually hold space and then click and actually just drag and pan your canvas. And you get the little like grippy hand cursor change and everything. So you can actually manipulate your canvas really well now. And so that just is a nice little bonus when you're trying to navigate through, especially with those of us that have large flows. It's really easy to just space and click and drag it along to get to a different spot that you want. And so that's just another like really cool little feature that we've added in 912 as well. So yeah, a nice little just easy navigation, I guess, in there. A couple other things. Let's see here. In older versions, like if I open up that, spelled it wrong, so it did not pop up. Here we go. In older versions, if I opened this, this is version 8, but this also would apply to like older things in version 9 as well. If I open a flow and you go to set up input data, you have two options. You can use a design pattern or set up your input data. And then if you don't actually have a design pattern that exists, it's going to just show no results, right? Because I haven't actually built a design pattern. So it doesn't make sense to even have this available or as an option on selecting items in my flow, but that's also gone away. We've completely removed that. If you do not have a design pattern, you click set up input data, it goes immediately to setting up input data. If I did have a design pattern in this project, then it would let me choose that. But if I don't, then I don't have to worry about it. I can just click set up input data and get what I'm looking for. Let's see here. A couple other things that I know about. This was a change in 9.11. You can actually set up samples, like a number of samples to run. So if you want to run through your debug like a specific number of times to test it and see different things and also display the results that you have. If you're running something, by default, before 9.11, you would only see 5 results always. And so if something like hit like a for each loop or something that it hit a for each loop 20 times, you would see the first 2 results and the last 3 results, and you could never look at the ones in the middle. And in 9.11, they allowed you to actually change the number of samples that you could display. Um, and then there was some limitations, like 5 is the minimum, and if you changed it to 1, it would show you a value. And now we've actually set a maximum on this as well, so you can, and the errors display better than they did in the 9.11 update. So in this, it actually explicitly tells me that the value of these samples has to be between 5 and 100. But this way, if you have something that's running through 20 times, and you want to be able to see all 20 executions from your loop or something like that, you could actually run 20 samples and you can see all 20 samples in the debugger. So that one's pretty nice to be able to just actually view all of those things and like calculate those options. Another very probably not super noticeable one, if you've ever seen or paid attention to like the buttons and everything, we've changed a little bit about where the trash and the for deleting and adding steps, or deleting the path and adding steps are. In older versions, there used to be a lot more space, so there's a little bit more ambiguity, especially when you had some overlapping lines like this that made it difficult to pick the correct item for if you want to get rid of something or add a new step on a pathway. But we've actually pushed them a little bit closer now, so it's pretty easy to find them and access them and know exactly what path they're associated with. So especially if you have a lot of really close ones like this, it's a little bit easier to find exactly what you're looking for and grab the correct icon when you're grabbing those things. Let's see here. The only other thing I've got in relation to this that is very useful is on the debugger. So, a couple things you might notice. If I run the debugger, you might notice stuff like this like orange outline, and it makes it a little bit more clearer. So all of the dialogues that we've done on the different debuggers are a little bit nicer looking. So we kind of updated the UI on inputs and stuff like that. But the other really big one that I wanted to highlight, change that back. Oops. Back to constant 5. Oh, and I want to turn off the simulation data because I don't actually want to run that. Okay. The other thing too that we've changed, this is the one of the biggest changes actually in the 9.12 update, is how you can view the results in the debugger and everything. So what we have here is we actually have, if I click on this, normally in the old versions, if I tried to debug something, like if I debug in version 8 with this step to see what happens to it, uh, and run it. Normally what would happen is you click on this, you get to look at the execution, and then you get to look at the input and output data of said execution. And you could choose to just look at the input data, just look at the output data, whatever, things like that. In this new update, by simply clicking on this, I don't get an option. It automatically opens up this whole menu that displays the inputs on the left side and the outputs on the right side. I can shift it if I need to look at it differently, search for things pretty easily in the outputs. It still has like the drop down functionality where I could drop items down and do that kind of thing to find exactly what I'm looking for if I'm trying to expand or drop down items. I can actually even see the inputs that went in to the different possibilities of outputs in my process. So the possible error options on the step, the possible outputs here, the possible inputs that were set on this particular step. And so then I can easily just navigate to each individual step and see the things and how they happened, as well as the executions and stuff on the side over here. So obviously these only executed once, but I could check that for multiple times if I needed to, check and find the different values. So it's really nice. No longer have to decide between like choosing inputs versus outputs. Just by clicking in it, you will see both, but they're still pretty well organized. And they fit on the screen really well also. So it's kind of nice to be able to see everything all together. I personally found that 90% of the time I'm clicking on to view inputs and outputs anyway. So this kind of gives me all of that data right in one place. So that's another really cool. This is probably one of the ones that probably the biggest part of the 9.12 flow design refresh stuff and the way that we've refreshed how the flow designer and debugger works. So just another really cool option. All right. So that was a little peep at the 9.12 update if you haven't had a chance to see that yet. But we can go ahead and take a look because we do have a question in the Q&A. Question is, how do you get the primary key from an insert query after the query has run? Primary key from the newly created record will be needed for a step downstream. Okay. So, anytime you have like different steps, it just depends on uh, what you're looking for on the particular like item. So, um, I know you and I have talked about this before. Are you specifically referring to, or like, are you utilizing the steps that come from table integrations on your system, or are you looking at something like a different
Yeah, it's
system?
not using table integration. It's just using add query. So I
Okay,
made
so
an
you just added a,
insert query into, any one of these tables is fine.
got it. Okay.
Mhm.
What is it? What's the name of my structure? Can't remember what my structure is called that I have in here. Let's see here. Show.
So the insert query does not contain the primary key of the table because the database takes care of that.
Right. Let's run it. Of course it's gonna do
You need parameters, I guess, in the
that. Yeah, yeah. Let's one moment. Yeah, let's get this way. Select the yes. I think we want this. Okay, sorry, I was just trying to check to see what the if this setting would have changed anything. But that's just that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. Okay, make sure to write this. I'm not super versed on actual data parts of this.
Do you need variables for the values?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to set here. So make sure that I can pass it in. Mostly just the insert queries. I don't know super well, so I'm not 100% sure what to change on the
I think
setup
what
of
I
this.
did, just for the record,
Yeah.
where it says values,
Oh, here.
yeah, the extension ID would be at extension ID and then take off the last greater than. Take off yeah, take that one off and the
Like that.
beginning one, and the beginning one. And if you
Got
do
it.
that
So
to
you can see.
all of them,
I see. It does. It is setting those up as the parameters only. Okay. Thank you.
there you
There
go.
you go. Thank you. Okay. Let's create that now so I can grab it. Insert query test. I don't know what all my old data in here is. So let's do insert test. Okay. Oh, okay. So if I generate this, run it, it's gonna fail. Is it missing extension stuff? It's probably can't
There's a
probably
one column that needs to be filled in. I'm not sure which one it is.
yes. It's one of these IDs. I might have to have a GUID or something to make it work. I don't know if the extension ID counts or not either. We'll see if that changed anything, but oh, that worked. Okay. It, it just outputs. Doesn't actually output anything.
That's the problem. First of all, I don't know what the primary key is on this table, but whatever it is, that's the value that I'm looking for on the output.
Right. Got it. Interesting. Okay. I wonder if any of these other options. What's the there? What's the problem there? Nothing other than my return data option. No, it just doesn't want to run that. Can't return data. Let's do this.
Control H does a really good job there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, replace with nothing. I gets rid of them all. That little icon two to the right of there.
Yeah, I got it. All those. I'm gonna change this to be select type and see how that changes anything. Case entity that I've created at some point. Save that. Try a different return data option, see if that changes how that works. So instead, but
Do we know what the primary key of this table is?
this is just a case entity that I've created on my instance. So it's just the idea of it. Still doesn't actually output data though. That seems odd. It's supposed to output something. That's the thing that I'm not sure why it doesn't output data or what's missing there. Everywhere that I'm seeing it's claiming that it's outputting data, but I don't see where it is actually outputting that information. That's the part that's tripping me up at the moment. Um, Interesting. Yeah, I don't know why this wouldn't output data. That's the part that I don't understand. It claims it's supposed to output
And if
data.
it outputs data, what data would it output?
I
Don't you have
That's
to
what I'm
pick?
trying different things. I mean, I chose an actual data type that exists to see if it was going to do that for me, but I'm not seeing any actual changes. To see like what that data actually is. Every single time I run it, it just says the data output is the result and it's an empty list. gonna create 3 random goods and see if that changes. That matters for some reason. Otherwise, I might have to take this another time or take this offline. Okay. Generate 3 random grids for these that are supposed to be grids. Different test case. If that changes anything. Generating that stuff. But not outputting data. Let me just fetch this stuff and see what happens. There it goes from the test times. Okay, whatever I'm doing is not actually inserting the query, or it's not saving it to that database. That's why it's definitely not actually whatever this in. I don't know if that's just a problem with my insert query, but it's not even outputting the data. So a couple of thoughts then on things to consider before we resort to like offering to say maybe support would help you. Obviously, support would be easily helpful. Um, Things like this, if you have a fetch entities, if you know you're creating some thing and then you can fetch from that table or wherever that location, like wherever that is located at, anything with a fetch, you can easily build your fetch criteria into that to grab the item that you created. And then as long as, like you said, as long as you know your primary key, whatever that is, like if it's this case ID, then you'll have that data in the fetch results. So any kind of like fetch or get step or something, again, whether that's like a fetch entities, if you are like resorting to another query that's like a select query or something, if you can select or fetch the item that just got created based on information from that item, trying to like find exactly what that information is or some unique other item in it or something like that, that isn't like naturally generated, then you might be able to grab that. So like if I did this and I did like fetch criteria on the string with created time even or something like that, you might be able to find more information. And then I can grab this because now the fetch step or the get step can output this data um, and everything, and I can get that data just fine. If it's not using that, I don't know why necessarily that the insert isn't actually outputting data. Clearly, there's something off about the way that I started to create this, so maybe that's just what I'm missing. Support team will definitely help you find that if you're trying to piece that together and the fetch is a little bit more difficult or adding too much. Um, the support team should be able to just like figure out if there's an error in your actual like in what you wrote or something like that. To kind of or what your query is because
Well,
my best
I
guess
didn't,
is mine is
I did,
off.
I didn't use a fetch entity step. I just thought that if you insert using an insert query and then run that query, it does do the insert to the table. Clearly, you
Right,
can see it. But like you saw, there's no output at all for the primary key that automatically gets generated when you cut a record.
right.
And
And that
so the result of that was pull the table for the maximum record that you just created, the maximum primary key. And while that works, it's not a great idea because it's very possible that somebody at the same time could be hitting the button as well, and your keys get mixed up.
right. Yeah, and with that being the case, it might be something related to trying to find uh, maybe support will be able to help you figure out exactly what's up with this particular step or if there's a problem with that. I don't know why this is not outputting data because it claims it should output something. And even if I change, like I can change the return data option to be a file, data rows, a specific type, whatever, and it does change the outputs. I just don't know why I'm not getting outputs to come out of this because it's supposed to output something. If you set it to output something when you set up that step, which is exactly what we had when I was looking at that insert query initially. um, the return data option is selected,
Right.
and there's those return data options for whatever. So whatever that is, that should be outputting something for you. And if you're also not getting something output, then maybe the support team can help you fix your insert query or something like that to make it actually work. Because I don't know exactly what the problem is, or if there is a problem with this particular step and in finding that data, you could be able to do that. Um, the other thing that I know is when you do like a create a table integration with something, there is going to be an insert step that gets created whenever you use table integrations. So directly with the table integration steps, there is an insert query, and this
Hmm.
one does output
So maybe that's the
specifically
solution.
the key.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe that's the solution then.
yeah, like I this one I've seen before, and I know that that definitely works because I was looking at that. This will output the extension ID because the extension ID is set as the key. If I grab an insert abstract defined case step in my instance and try to insert something, it will insert that and then output the extension ID of that item.
So in order to create the table definition, or what would you call it?
Table integration.
Table integration. You would just go to the table itself, or how do you create the table add integration? I think it was, or something.
Yep. Yeah, so it's just within your database and the database that
Mm-hmm.
you're connected to, the same way you would add a query integration,
Mm-hmm.
you can just add table
Right.
integration. And then when you do
Yep.
that, you'll have a list of the tables that are in your database that you're connected to. Like
Right.
obviously this is my decisions one, so there's a ton of things in here
Right.
that are already built into it. But like an external thing that only has two tables, you'll see those two tables here. And
Right.
then when you
And
just
then
click
you
on one, it'll start to generate that table for you. If it already has a primary key set, this should be set, but you can also change these, remove fields if you care about it, and then it should automatically, as long as you have those, start to
so the
generate the
if
flow
the name
steps
of
for that.
this is account folder access right,
Mhm.
in the flow, you would choose account folder access right, like an insert.
Yes. So like let's just make this, if I make this account folder access um, table integration, I should have all of these steps if I go to a flow and look for integrations.
Go to the
Um,
original flow and use that. Oh, you can't use that one. Okay, I follow you though.
it should be under integration database,
So you can't
um,
search for it. You have to go
local
that way.
account folder. I don't know. I'll check in a second. But yeah, so then I drill down into database, the database that I want, account folder access right, and then there's an insert. So like if I do insert to, this outputs, it should output the key of whatever that thing is. Well, interesting, I'm not seeing it here, which is weird because I was doing this earlier today from your question that you had asked, and I didn't have any problem seeing it. Oh, you can actually search it. Yeah, insert to account folder access. So never mind. There's no problem with, shouldn't be a problems with inserting or searching for it at least.
So use that instead of the insert query that I created.
Yes. Yeah, because it's still directly linked with your table that you already have in your database. And it generates that insert for you. It'll contain all like the objects, inserted objects, right? So then I would have to build array on this, but like I can still build data on this and pass in all the things that I need to into this.
Hmm.
And then that should still output your actual value.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Yep. And then if you're still having trouble, I think the support team should help you find the more niche thing if there's something missing there.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you for your help.
Yep, no problem. All right. All right. I know we got a couple other questions. We're going to get to those now. Robin, you asked a question, new to decisions, showing how to use assignment roles to assign a task in a flow. Um, great. Oh, well, I do actually have our direct documentation link on this, so I'll pop that up there just real quick so you can see that. So I just put that in the chat. Thank you, Sushmitha, for sending that. Um, but so this is highlighting specifically the assignment roles aspect of it as well. So I know you can generate an assignment and everything. But if you're trying to look for that part, security assignment roles. I don't. Actually, I do have an assignment role. I didn't realize I had an assignment role. Cool. Um, so if you're not familiar, you can add assignment roles to in a project or on the system as well. There's an assignment rules section. I don't know if it's on version 9 or not, but or at least not in the system on version 9 anymore, but it's definitely there. In a project, you can add assignment rules that generates an assignment and has a certain like accounts and groups that are involved in it. It's kind of like a subgroup kind of thing in decisions. So you can very easily set those up. And then if I go to a flow that has a form in it, just open up a new one so that I don't throw away. Okay, let's just say this is my assignment. I'm going to change this to an assignment. Now normally assigned to, uh, you can add things statically, and that includes an assignment role. So like my assignment test is an assignment role. It's got that little image on it. So like if I try to look for like my account, it's got like the little like icons to represent accounts and things like that. So the assignment roles is that little green image that's up there. So I can directly assignment to a specific assignment role right there if I want to. And so now anyone that's incorporated in that assignment role would receive this assignment for it automatically. You can also use the assignment setup section to set those up as well. This is more useful if you're going to use some kind of dynamic like selection for who it gets assigned to. So then you also have the options to assign to specific accounts and groups. So this would be if you want to like pull from your flow to grab those accounts and groups. And if you're not using accounts and groups, you can also use assignment rules. So if you have a string, something that's outputting the name of your assignment role group or your assignment role specifically, you could also grab it dynamically under here. So the dynamic method would come from assignment setup and then just choosing assignment roles or accounts and groups up here. And then the static way, if you just have an assignment role setup, is just go to the assigned to section on the assignment itself. And any groups, accounts, or assignment roles that you search should appear on this when you're trying to search to make sure that this particular assignment gets sent to any one particular user. No problem. Okay, Alex, a couple questions from you. Can you show how to use Python in decisions? Throwing me a tricky one here. Um, can I directly show you how to use Python? No, I'm going to be just outright and blunt on that. I personally do not know how to use specifically it. I have never done it. I don't know if any of our other trainers have for being able to maybe show that off at a different time. However, what I do know about it is that we do have a Python module. So if you're in your system administration and features, there is a Python module that you can add that like helps you to use different things. And so by installing this module, you will get a number of steps that allow you to do some things with Python. So you can kind of add different things like that from there. I've never personally used it, so I don't know what kind of steps it has and like exactly how that works. But there's at least some levels of this that you can just by installing this, you'll get a number of steps, and then you can practice with it and use it in different ways. So if I grab this, go to configuration, dependencies, let me add Python module as a dependency here. This is just an extra step in version 9 if you're in version 8, you don't have to do the dependency thing. You should just get steps right away. Um, and then if I go to a flow of any kind and go to my integration category, I'll have a Python category in here. So now that I have um, that module installed, there's a whole Python category. And then there's steps in here that I can use to execute scripts with Python scripts. And then from there, you can input your files, parameters, all that kind of stuff. Uh, Anything beyond this, I unfortunately am not going to be much help. I don't know much else about the other stuff, but this may at least lead you in the right direction to try some things and get you going to at least do some testing so you can get some steps that you can correspond with. And if you have further questions, um, you can try another lunch and learn, and that's being led by Gregory or Jared. Um, or just like email us training@decisions.com if you're like want to warn us ahead of time. Otherwise, I think the support you're going to get more help with that because there's probably an expert on Python scripts specifically, or they would know who to reach out to get that help. With regards to your second question, is there a way to make changes on a flow, but it only be saved to a branch that I can test on? So to clarify this, are you referring to like a branch in the like repository concept?
Well, yeah. So normally when you're working with like any kind of Git solution, right, I can pull it down to my local, do some test, and then push it up to maybe a test branch if I want to. But because you're hosting us, I don't know if I could even like basically have a separate branch where I could like test something without breaking the current flows that exist in my system, right? So if I'm testing on dev, I don't want to break
Yes.
it for the rest of the people using dev.
Yes. So you can still, just because we host you, you should still have access to your repository. And that's where you do any like branching and stuff.
Yeah, I have access to
So
mine, right? I mean to the repo.
yeah, so you can just make a branch off the repo if you want to, and then you can pull from the branch. You can check out their project from that branch if you need to, without directly uh, changing like your main like dev or anything like that.
I
So
mean,
you shouldn't have a problem doing that.
how would that work if I'm like making like so if I'm in my dev environment, right? How can I start, I don't know, working on a specific project and the changes I make in this project not affect the environment that I'm in, right?
Um, I guess in that way of things, you can't directly like not change your current environment. Um, like if you're gonna make a change here, that change there's in decisions like as the application, like right here, there's only one version of the thing that you're working on. So like if I'm working on this and you're working on this and Jasmine's working on this and Smisha are working on this, like all of the people that we have right now, if all of us are working on this at the same time, if I make changes to this comment flow, that change is going to persist for all of you. You will all see the fruits of that change. And so if that change is made, then that will directly potentially cause, depending on how the other things that everyone else is working on are linked, yes, it will potentially cause some things that will affect what they're working on. The the closest you can have to a like version in that way that like you would get from like GitHub and stuff like that you would use is you can do checkpoints. So what you could do is I could make a checkpoint of this so that you at least have like a point that you could go backwards to if needed. And so like it's like if I took this the way that this current flow is built right now, and I said this is the one that's working and the one that I don't want to lose. What I could do is I could make a checkpoint. Um, and then like save this checkpoint. And so now what this does is it saves the flow as it is as a checkpoint. So then if I need to, I can go backwards and I can make any number of other changes and additions to this flow, dragging some new steps, maybe deleting a step, whatever. And if I hit save, uh, it'll save. So now like the current version of this that everyone sees is this flow that I have right here, because that's what I currently have saved. But since I made a checkpoint, I can go back and then undo this. So if I go to right click on that, on like the flow that I just created, and then go to where is it? View history. I was looking for view history / documentation. They must have changed that. If you go to the history view, so like right clicking on the flow, find the view history button. I think in other versions it says view history / documentation. But if I go to the history button, I can see all of like the things that I've saved, but I can even see my checkpoint that I made. And so I can actually go to my checkpoint. I guess I just downloaded a preview image on accident. But then what I can do is I can go to that checkpoint and restore from backup. So if the changes that I did make aren't good enough or aren't what I want, I could say, okay, actually I shouldn't have deleted that one form that I deleted and that messed up my whole process, or one of the things that I added wasn't good. I can go to restore from backup and it's going to replace whatever's currently saved that has like that truth table and a couple other things like that. And things there. And so now if I go to that flow and I open it up because I restored from that checkpoint, it is now that version. So I no longer have this deleted and the other random things that I threw into that flow and saved them. That's the closest thing you're going to get on like one server at a time without like going out of your way to save and remove things from the repository like that.
Okay. Gotcha. I also saw that you had, well, there's a Docker plugin. I wonder if I could like
Mhm.
stand up my own decisions and just have two. They're kind of running parallel. But anyway, that's a far outside of the scope of this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Feel free to go to that and mess with the module, but
mhm.
oh, I guess I already have it installed. I didn't realize. But yeah, you can look at that if you're utilizing containers in different ways. You could definitely take a look at that. I don't know exactly, not being like a CS person, I don't know exactly how that plays into um licenses and things, but that'd be a question for your CSM.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, we got another question from Joe. What happened to the labels in version 9.11? You can't resize them? You're talking about form labels? You should be able to speak. I added you.
Flow labels. Go to a flow,
Oh, in the flow.
add a label. Toolbox labels. Just search for label. Yeah, that's fine. If you write a real big label, you can't make it wrap. You can't change the shape.
Hmm. There's a word wrap option. Yeah, there's a word wrap
Oh
option. It's
wait,
I think it's a
when you hit
setting.
word wait when you hit
Yeah.
word wrap, it gives you the little anchor points
Yes.
to grab.
So by default, it's not there, but there is a word wrap checkbox. If you
I
select
see.
that, then it makes the word wrap work, and then you can also change
Yep,
the
yep,
size.
yep. There you go.
There it
Thank
is.
you, sir. It's driving
Yep.
me nuts. I
Yep.
didn't see
I
that
get
one.
it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep. No problem. All right. Well, we're pretty much right up to the end of our time. So, and I don't have any more questions. So I think we will go ahead and end it there. Uh, Thank you all for joining. Thank you for a wonderful week. Those of you that celebrate the 4th of July, hope you have a great holiday. If not, hope you still have a great weekend. I will see you all next week with myself and Gregory will be back to alternating our lunch and learns. So you'll see both of us next week. Look forward to talking to you all again soon, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and weekend coming up. Bye, everybody.